Alright, Trickers and Trickers, time to take a look at the final episode of the day, which is Time's Orphan. Mouse O'Brien wakes up with his wife Keiko one morning, having both his wife and two children have returned to Deep Space Nine, having life of the Dominion world was inevitable. Excuse me. The children talk about what he's been up to while they've been away, as Keiko warns she intends to get Miles back in shape. Later that morning, the couple get ready for a family picnic on Galana, a planet in the Bajoran sector. Their daughter Molly is very excited and tells her baby brother Kiriyoshi that the last time they went was when Keiko was pregnant with him. Later, as Keiko brushes Molly's hair, Molly tells her father that she wants to be an exobiologist when she grows up, and asks if they could take Chester, the family's pet cat, if they have to be sent away again. Miles, living a moment of true happiness, promises he won't send them away again. Molly goes to play and begins doing cartwheels in the meadow. Keiko tells Miles he made Molly a big promise, as the war might heat up again and the station won't be safe. Miles tells her that he'll put in for a transfer if that happens. He doesn't intend for the family to be separated anymore. In space with Kiriyoshi, Molly drifts closer to a nearby cavern. The picnic is cut short when they hear Molly screaming not far away. When Miles arrives at the cavern she's playing, he finds his daughter hanging from a cliff over a mysterious device, which is active at producing a strange energy field. He's not able to grab her hand in time, and the little girl falls into the phenomenon and vanishes. A science and engineering team is called from Deep Space Nine to investigate the device. Major Curie climbs down a ladder into the area below and asks Commander Dex what the mysterious object is. Dex tells her they have established that the device is some kind of time portal left behind by an ancient civilization that may transport Molly about 3 centuries into the past. O'Brien is fiercely working with the engineers from the USS Defiant to get the portal working again. But it suffers a power overload and O'Brien yells out, "Oh, bollocks!" in frustration. Kyoshi begins crying, so Kira offers to take him up to the Defiant so Keiko can stay with Miles until he gets the portal up and running. In Captain Sisko's ready room, Kira holds Kiriyoshi and feels that the infant knows her intimately, given that Kira carried him to term for 5 months. Kira tells Odo, who is sitting nearby, that she might want children of her own someday. Odo, visibly uncomfortable, changes the subject and informs Kira that he has learned from the Bajoran Archaeological Institute that, as Bajoran settlers only arrived on Galana less than a century ago, wherever or whenever Molly is, she's going to be all alone. So the group makes a plan to open the portal and try to lock onto Molly's DNA to beam her back. Although the plan initially works, to everyone's surprise, the Molly that materializes in front of them is 10 years older. She becomes frightened and bites O'Brien and starts to run wild, but Bashir sedates her with a hypo spray as her parents watch horrified. In sick bay of the Defiant, Bashir confirms through medical scans that the DNA matches, and the girl they have is indeed Molly. Miles wants to try again to get young Molly back. Bashir points out that if they do, the 18-year-old Molly will disappear. Keiko says this girl is their Molly. Even if they haven't spent the last 10 years with her, they don't have the right to take those years away from her. Bashir says it will not be easy for her to re-assimilate. She may have blocked out all memories of early life to cope with her prolonged isolation. He believes the time with O'Brien's will be her best hope for recovering. They plan to return to Deep Space Nine, where a cargo bay is being converted to a safe environment for her. To provide a safe environment for her. Bashir says they'll just have to feel their way through the recovery process. Back on the station, Worf returns to his and Dex's quarters and is surprised to find that she is off to watch Yoshi and Masu Keiko spend time with Molly. Worf recalls that Dex has been eagerly waiting to run spectral scans on a comet that will pass through the Denorius belt that night. But Dex tells him that she's decided to miss it because if she leaves, there'll be no one to watch Yoshi. Suddenly eager to prove himself, Worf offers to watch the baby so she can work her shift. Dex mentions that she has had 9 children, 5 as a mother, 4 as a father. She's not sure Worf understands how much work babies are, since he did not begin caring for his own son until Alexander was 4. Worf says they will be fine until Dex go to work, only for Yoshi to start crying as soon as she leaves the Klingon trying to settle him down. Molly wakes up in a grassy area which has been set up in the middle of the cargo bay. When the O'Briens enter, she appears to find them oddly familiar. Master she looks to the floor to look upward at them, till she once realizes that from her viewpoint, she remembers them being much taller than her. She becomes skittish and climbs the tree in the grassy area. Mel shows her a plate of fruit from Glen and tries to tempt her. Wary, she comes down and begins eating a distance from them. Molly tries saying Mommy, but is still afraid. Keiko shows Molly her doll Loopy. Molly takes it all and stares at it intently. As time passes, the O'Briens continue working with Molly on language skills and socialization. They enjoy playing games with balls. Molly likes the balls. Each time Miles tosses one to her, she tosses it back. She takes it and hoards it. Finally, they achieve a breakthrough. When Molly's just about to hide her ball and Miles says, "Please," and she rolls the ball back to him. All three O'Briens smile. In Orphan Jackson's quarters, the couple are trying to sleep, but Yoshi is crying continuously. Orphan complains that nothing he does helps Yoshi fall asleep. Dex tries to take over. Orphan makes a passionate speech saying that after all he's accomplished life and career, he'll succeed in helping a crying baby to sleep. Dex says why this babysitting thing is so important all of a sudden. Orphan points that Dex is judging him on his fitness to parent her future children. He tells her to go back to sleep. I have work to do. In the cargo bay, Molly is asleep in the tree and O'Brien is asleep on a nearby couch. Keiko says Dax has agreed to watch Yoshi so Miles can get some work done. While she's sitting next to O'Brien on the couch, Keiko begins brushing her hair. Molly wakes and watches her. Comes close, hand over the brush. Keiko starts to give her the brush, but Molly leaves Keiko's hand on and kneels down, pushing Keiko's hand to brush Molly's hair as she used to do when Molly was little. As O'Brien and Bishop walk through a corridor, Bashir asks several questions about Molly. O'Brien says she's not talking yet, but she clearly understands what they're saying to her and responds to her name. More and more, she reminds him of the little girl she used to be. She shows Bashir pictures she drew and saying she started to eat with a spoon. Bashir mentions that Molly was anthropomorphized the environment and cautions O'Brien against pushing her too hard. But O'Brien says she's doing great on her own. They reach the O'Brien quarters, where Worf is seated on the floor speaking to Yoshi and playing with the rattle. Worf is saying gung gung gung, and Yoshi is laughing. Worf explains that he was instructing Yoshi in a Klingon hand-eye exercise to build a foundation for future warriors. Bashir is amused. O'Brien asks how seriously Yoshi did the exercise. O'Brien asks how seriously Yoshi did the exercise. Worf said he quitted himself well. When O'Brien returns to cargo bay, Molly is in a panic, rushing and running from one side to the other. Keiko explains she has been for an hour. Keiko has to leave to pick up Yoshi and take him home, upon which Molly has another language breakthrough, saying her first actual word since being rescued as she repeats, home, clearly understanding its meaning as well as saying her name. The O'Briens are delighted, responding yes, they will take her home. They take her to their quarters. Molly looks at her timidly, responding to the starry stars outside the viewport. When they try to take her to her room, she becomes agitated. She grabs a picture of them all on a picnic and keeps saying, Molly, home. To the O'Briens realize that to her, home is Golana. The planet's off limits, but Miles realizes there is a way to take her there. Miles and Keiko decide to take Molly to a hollow suite, which seemingly Golana cheer her up, and the idea proves to be a good one. Molly calls them Mommy and Daddy and begins doing cartwheels as she did on their picnic. Miles takes the probably schedule hollow suite for an hour or two every day, as Molly continues to play happily. Then a call comes from Cork, and Scopo Klingons have reserved the hollow suite for some afternoon carnage, and refuses Miles' offer to reimburse their time. Cork apologizes to the O'Briens as there's nothing more he can do. Miles says he understands and thanks them for being so accommodating. Miles tries to tell Molly the bad news, but when she completely ignores him, he's forced to end the program. The planet disappears, and Molly is to divide herself in a now small, confined room, but the confusion soon gives way to anger, and Molly leaves the hollow suite in a feral rage, and starts to tear Quarks apart. After such a few people, a Markelian named Mardride appears to her. She responds by stabbing him in the gut with a broken line. After assaulting a few people, a Markelian named Mardride approaches her. She responds by stabbing him in the gut with a broken bottle. Just then, Odo and his deputies arrive and stun Molly, but the damage is done. Yeesh. Oh, sorry. The Markelian survives, but presses assault with a deadly weapons charge. After Cisco tells O'Brien that the Federation magistrate has decided that Molly should be taken to a special care center on Davos Prime for evaluation, O'Brien is certain they'll end up keeping her there. O'Brien argues that Molly needs to stay with their family to make progress. Cisco tells the chief that he's sorry as there's no other way. Down in the holding cell, as Molly paces, Bashir reports that her blood is flooded with adrenaline due to her confinement, and there's a risk of her going into shock. Molly notices her parents starts to continually throw herself into the force field to protect her father, regardless of the pain. The deputy is forced to turn the force field off, after which Molly starts to get wild again and sedated. Bashir gives Miles a sample, and a simple fact. Molly needs open spaces all the time. Bashir would recommend she be put into a holosuite for the time being, but this is just a short-term solution, as everything will eventually they'll have to put her on a transport. In the worst quarters, Dexter has to find Bashir, who just finished examining Yoshi, who has fallen and has a small bump on his head. The doctor assures Dexter that it's nothing serious and it happens all the time with toddlers. He leaves her to return to the infirmary. Worf explains to Dex what happened. He had been pretending to be a beast and chased Yoshi. Excuse me. The baby was laughing so hard he didn't look in when he was going and fell against the table. Worf braced her for playing too rough. Dex says it was just an accident. Worf started to question his fitness as a father. Dex protests she never said anything like that. He says he failed Alexander. He failed Yoshi. Should he attempt to fall? Something like that. He says he failed Alexander. He failed Yoshi. He would have failed their children as well. Depressed, Worf leaves. Later, the O'Briens debate what to do, knowing Molly would never cope at a special care center. Keiko realizes Miles is up to something, and he finally admits that he's planning to steal a runabout and take Molly back to Golana. Keiko says it's the first place to look for her, and then realizes he also plans to send her back through the portal. He'll try the portal after they send her through. He wishes there was some other way, but he believes she could survive there and be happy. Keiko reluctantly agrees. Miles goes to security, where Molly's sedated in a holding cell. Edward tells him she plans to move her to a holosuite before she wakes up. Miles tells him plans have changed. There are no holosuites available, and Odo wants her moved to the cargo bay instead. The deputy says he wasn't notified in charge. Miles tells him to check the log, and when the deputy turns away, sedates him. Miles takes Molly to a runabout, where Keiko has everything prepared. Before they can board, security officer Lieutenant Jones finds them and calls Odo. Molly is still asleep. Odo sends Jones back to check on the deputy Pinar, then Miles sedated and takes a statement. The O'Briens beg Odo for help, saying Molly will die if she's returned to the holding cell. Odo says he's very disappointed, because he thought that if anyone could break a prisoner out of a cell and get them off the station, it would be Miles. The opens and tells them to get on their way. Keiko hugs him. Odo watches as they board. In the cavern, Keiko is packed with a knife, a blanket, and Molly's doll. O'Brien reactivates the portal, and Molly smiles. Her parents, happy she's going to survive but still devastated after losing their daughter, hug her and then tell her to go home. Molly looks up and says that the stars are the O'Brien's home. They know they'll be watching her from the stars. She says, Molly loves you, and goes through the portal, holding the bag Keiko gave her. Miles draws his face and prepares to destroy the portal. Excuse me. Once Molly's through, she's about to continue on her way when she hears a little girl crying. Looking around, she finds her 8-year-old self from the present. Just minutes after she had originally fallen through the portal. Older Molly takes her hand and tells her, Mommy, Daddy, there, pointing to the portal. She gives Preston Molly the doll from the bag, and urges her throw. She smiles and says, Molly, home, and disappears as the younger self returns to her own time. A moment before Miles fires his face at the device, Molly emerges from the portal and is reunited with overjoyed parents. Back on DS9, Worf enters his quarters. Dax is safe to come in. She dropped Nushi off at the O'Briens a few minutes ago. He says he was really happy to see his sister. Dax says Worf they understand the head bump was an accident and they invited Dax and Worf and dinner, take them all for the babysitting. Worf nervously asked what she replied, and she told him she'd have to check with him. Then she asked Worf, what does gung mean? Then she asked Worf, what does gung mean? Just Yoshi kept shaking his rattle and saying it with great gusto. Worf was pleased. Dex tells him he obviously made a big impression on the toddler. Maybe not as bad with children as he thought, she tells him. Worf says it's not as bad as she thought, and she admits that she had doubts, but has never been so glad to be proven wrong, and they hug. Worf says they had better get to dinner with the O'Briens. Later that night, Keiko and Miles are talking while Molly is drawing a picture. Miles says everyone Captain Sisko's going to represent him. Miles says Sisko's going to represent him at the Starfleet inquiry. And Keiko says if anyone can make them understand, Sisko can. Molly asks if she can see the girl who found her again. Keiko says not for a while. It's really, really quiet, okay? Later that night, Keiko and Miles are talking while Molly is drawing a picture. Miles says Captain Sisko's going to represent him in Starfleet inquiry. Keiko says if anyone can make them understand, Sisko can. Molly asks if she can see the girl who found her again. Keiko says not for a while. Miles says Dex explained the recalibration didn't hold, which is why older Molly ended up going through to the same point in time. Keiko wonders if she realized the little girl was herself. Miles says he hopes so. Molly shows him a picture. It's very similar to the one older Molly drew. Molly says it's where they had their picnic. Molly says where they had the picnic. The parents are startled, but then tells her it's lovely. Oh, it's sweet. I'm just really tired. Ooh. So yeah, let's take a look at some production notes from this episode. All the exteriors for this episode were shot in Malibu Creek State Park. During the filming of the picnic scene, Rosalind Chow heard some of the crew whispering during her dialogue, which is an unheard of occurrence. However, she didn't pay any attention and continued on with the scene. After could have been called, Steve Foster slowly approached the cast and said, Now Rosalind, don't panic, but, as Foster explains, we were in a big open field shooting the master of Keiko Miles with the two children when we saw something in the grass. It was a rattlesnake working its way toward the shot. We didn't want to do the actors and cause a bigger problem. There were two small children there, and we didn't want to freak them out. I was unaware of what we were seeing because he was concentrating on the performances, so we didn't call it cut. Oster and the camera crew quickly discussed what to do, which was heard by Chow, but decided to play it cool. As soon as Croker did say cut, Oster Very calmly asked all the cast to walk slowly toward him, which they did. The music then proceeded through the shot, closely followed by a park ranger. Jay Chataway's composition for the episode included first a Star Trek episode with a child's singing voice being used as part of the musical score. Leslie Hoffman was Hannah Hettey's son's safety on the beginning of the swing, holding onto her hands just before the camera rolled. John Margaret was her safety to begin the swing. Doug Drexler signed a book cover which included illustrations of several ruins from the Star Trek original series: a Kalar, a tree bearing cafe and apples, a pair of albatross, Ruth, and Jordan and Mugado and Doug Drexler signed the cover, which included illustrations of several aliens from the original series: a Kalar, a tree bearing cafe apples, Paranoids, Rook, and Endorian Amugato, the television known as the Keeper, Tellarite, a Vulcan Diplomat, a pair of the copper alien skins from Dreaded Babel, and the brown skin alien from Dreaded Babel, and a Goran. And now let's take a look at some trivia from this episode. In one scene, after a piece of equipment is standing in the background, Shiva Ryan shouts, "Bollocks." This is an Irish and British expletive referring to the testicles. The episode first screened by the BBC United Kingdom was removed, however. RTE screened the episode in Ireland. This episode of Molly mentions to Yoshi that last time into Galana he was unborn and being carried by Keiko. Smells appears in every episode during Keiko's pregnancy before Yoshi moved to Kira's womb. The trip must have occurred in between episodes, possibly before even Keiko announced her pregnancy. The console chief O'Brien used his operate Dublin time portal as a reuse of the console he and Dr. Bashir used to activate the Harvester bioweapon from the second season episode, the Armageddon game. Also it also bears a vague similarity to the TARDIS console from Doctor Who. The second time that the show has someone being erased from time as a result of their past being altered to an individual. This had previously occurred in Children of Time. Also in Children of Time, Molly mentions that he's building a dollhouse for Molly. In this episode, Chester sees landing on the roof of the dollhouse in Molly's room. This second time, the mouse and Keiko had to deal with the difference of Keiko's and Molly's respective biological ages being narrowed. The first time, Keiko was physically transformed into a child by a transport accident. Rascals was retained her full adult memories and mental faculties. This episode marks the second and final Chester. Yeah. This marks the second and final appearance of Chester at Mouse's Cat, which was given by Lily and Belby in the episode Honor Among Thieves. So that's not a good sign, I guess. So, yeah. Otis says he believed that if anyone could break a person out of his cell, he could off the station would be O'Brien. Surface O'Brien, what, somewhere. O'Brien says he believed that if anyone could break a person out of his cell, he could off the station, it would be O'Brien. It's made by reference of when O'Brien says tossing, escaping, and evading hunters in captive pursuit. That's kind of possible. So far, I really do enjoy this episode, and yeah, it's a shame we can't keep our time spending with it. So, yeah. So far, I think this episode is kind of interesting, and yeah, I do wish we would have spent more time with adult Molly. It's pretty clear that the O'Briens needed child Molly to survive, so yeah. So overall, I give Times Orphan So overall, I give times Orphan. Yeah, I'm sorry. So I think this episode is kind of interesting, and yeah, like I said, I wish we could spend more time with the adult Molly, but oh well then. So overall, I give times Orphan 3 warp cores out of 5. But anyway, tune in tomorrow so we take a look at the penultimate episode of the season, The Sound of Her Voice. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.